All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call.
Sharon Price.
Patrick Kane.
Brian Waldorf.
Eric Cordier.
Okay. No audience participation today. So I'm going to go ahead and do a motion to approve the minutes from the 9/20/21 meeting.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Sharon Price, second, and Charles Kane
Voted yay.
voted yay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so then we'll move down here. We're going to do the election of the chairperson for next year. So I'll vote. I'm gonna actually recommend Charles Kane for chairperson.
I'll second
I would
that.
accept if you guys are okay with that.
That's fine with me.
Okay, we got a motion to accept from Sharon and Eric.
Seconded.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Charles.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Okay, and then we'll just move on to review the CIB process and the request tools.
Yes, sir.
It's his meeting now.
Yeah, you're out.
Oh,
I go to number 5, okay.
You're one of us.
I'd like to correct, right, and say, number 5, we're going to review the CID process.
Sam, I just picked it up, I had to give it away. I know, you just got really good at it. I just ran that meeting, and now you want to give it up.
But thanks for the heads up.
Hey, you went
Yes,
And on behalf of the board, we just want to say this would be my first official proclamation. Congratulations to you, Sarah. We're all really excited, and
Thank you.
congratulations to you, Sam. So not only want to acknowledge you guys, but you guys have been terrific to work with and are a real pleasure. So it's nice to see you both in a good spot and happy. So it's great.
and I'll second that.
And it's nice to see you all back. We
Okay, then we're going to go to number 6, the department heads 2022 capital budget request.
Or do you want to?
Oh, we got to go to 5.
first? Sarah?
Oh.
Yeah, we'll do
I'm sorry.
real quick. We'll
Request
just
the
run
total,
through.
sorry.
Yeah. No luck on my clicker. That's all right. So you have the paper packets in front of you there, and if any of the department heads want one, we have them up here if you want to flip through the presentation as we go. So our first meeting, if you see on your packets there. Can you still hear me if I put it way over there? Okay. So tonight we just have our introductions, and then we'll have presentations by Parks and Rec, Golf Maintenance, and Engineering. And when Amy comes to do the engineering, she also does the infrastructure that we always go through with the road program. Over the next 4 meetings, we'll hear all the other department heads, and then we'll do our voting at that 4th meeting, and then at the 5th meeting, we present everything that we want to recommend to Finance Committee at the Finance Committee joint meeting with Capital Improvement Board, just like last year. Okay. So any questions on what we've got coming up? Okay. So then on the next page there, you can see our 2023 requests came in at just over $12 million. So big number this year. I can tell you that that's not the number we'll probably end with. We're probably going to have to make some decisions on what we can move forward with and what we can't this year. So as we go through each department head, we've already had discussions on, prioritizing things, and so as they talk through their requests, they'll be able to tell you, this is something that we really need, this is something that we could probably hold off on for another year. Okay.
Is there a target number?
So the target number I hope to have for you next week. We just finished up our initial budget hearings a couple weeks ago, and I don't quite have our total temporary budget together just yet to know exactly where we need to be at. But that first page, you can see all the individual department number requests. On the next page, you can see which funds those monies are coming out of. So you guys are kind of familiar with that, with how we pay for the different programs in different ways. So those are the numbers that I need to kind of hone in on and figure out how much do I really have to spend out of each of those places. But I hope to have that discussion with you next week so that we have an idea of where we need to get to. Okay, any questions on the total requests? And
Sarah, let
then-
me ask real quick.
Yep.
I see the sewer revenue in the police and fire levy fund. I remember that as kind of a predetermined offset to what we're getting. The fitness center's got a little asterisk in front of it.
Yeah, so over on the left-hand side there, you see that little star? That means that we're gonna be looking into some financing structures for those items, so those numbers aren't gonna stay that high. The numbers that you're seeing there are the total that we would need for the full amount of the project or for the full amount of the study, depending on which fund we're looking at. But we're gonna look to get some kind of debt or loan or financing structure to be able to pay for those things over
Yeah.
time. And you'll hear about one of them tonight, the fitness center. Yeah. But good question. Okay, so then the next page, we have our committed lease / financing payments. We go through this every year. There shouldn't be any surprises on this list for you because it's all stuff that we've approved before. So do you have any questions on the things that we're still paying off?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, we remember all that.
Yeah.
Nice thing about having continuity in the board, though, we're familiar that we made these commitments and it's an ongoing, kind of a non-debatable issue. We'll put our
Yeah,
focus
once we're
on
committed to
something.
the lease payments, there's it is what it is, yeah, until we pay it off. Okay, so first up, we have Jen Bettinson from Parks and Rec. And while she starts talking about the, what's that? That's the first thing up is the park, the grant funding. So she'll speak a little bit to that while I go see if I can't get our slides to come up on the screen. Okay.
Just FYI, I'm having a problem. This microphone gives me a problem every time I shut off, so I can't really hear.
Can you use the
I'm just gonna use
Shelley's?
this one. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that one
Maybe
works.
I can turn it down a little bit.
There you go. Is that better?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, so on this slide, we have the Glen Chamberlain, kind of the project here. We were able to, the previous mayor was able to apply for some state capital funding. We did win through that $338,000. However, the cost of the project was $675,000. So our share of that is going to be $337,000. We're still trying to figure out of that $675,000, what it is that we can do within that budget. So if the playground only comes in at $199, can the bathroom come in at $300? But we have to use that money, and we have to match those funds. Sarah, were you able to get any more information from ODNR?
Yeah, so we have an inquiry into ODNR. We started with their engineering division. It's Ohio Department of Natural Resources. That's who's going to administer this particular grant. As of today, I have not heard back from them just yet, but we're going to work it out with them and see what the details are behind this grant that we received, so that we make sure we do it right, do the things that they're expecting us to do, and also make sure that we use those matching funds to the best dollar that we can.
So that's kind of where that's at. And that picture that you see is the mock-up of the playground that will be at Glen Chamberlain. And then just a little side note, as we work through maintaining playgrounds within the city, they will all pattern after the Glen Chamberlain Park.
Jen, is the board aware of the 3 projects, though, that are in this thing?
You have the playground, the bathroom, and the ADA access?
Well, the
Yeah,
ADA
there's a total-
access, isn't that the first stage that we discussed last year? And
Yeah,
agreed
I
upon?
thought that was discussed last year.
Yeah.
It was,
So-
but that's only the first stage, I believe.
So what we ended up having to, do this year is go into an EPA study for that first phase. So we didn't actually do that first phase as we designed it last year. We actually have been talking to the EPA about relocating and diverting the stream that goes through there so that we can completely take out those bridges and make that all one level and one access. Okay, that's going to be the first component of this, not like we explained it last year. So then, and Amy has got the numbers within that 225,000 in order for us to get there. The bathroom is that bathroom that's right there next to shelter number 1 that we use for Rock the Park and camp and all of that. That bathroom has been deteriorating over the years. We've tried to maintain it as much as we can, but it's getting to the point now where it's going to have to be redone. And then the Glenn Chamberlain Playground, we've already removed equipment out of that over the last 7 years. We are going to have to remove more because it cannot be replaced, cannot be repaired, cannot be replaced in the condition that it is in. So we have to completely do a new one. So that was why the mayor put this
And
in.
with the replacement of the bathroom, are you talking about demolishing the whole thing and redoing a new one, or are we talking about a renovation project that's?
It will be completely demolishing that building and rebuilding a new one. There are structures out there that are one structure. It's a cement building. We just have to determine how many stalls we need and the type of material that we need, because it is a park. We need to be able to service it, clean it, wash it out, and things like that.
Okay.
So I don't know what that looks like yet. We haven't seen any particulars on that yet.
And the bathroom has been something that we've been looking at for quite a while to redo that bathroom. The trouble that we're having right now is any quote that's over, gosh, right now, even 12 months, there's no going back to it because the supply chain issues, the cost of labor, everything is just, you have to have the most up-to-date quote to really know what it's gonna cost. So we have this number in there because that's what we were awarded with the grant, but we really don't have firm figures on that number just yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, labor situation, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a theme throughout pretty much
Yeah.
everybody's requests. Even when you get into the vehicles and things, it's just changing too fast. So any questions about that grant funding that we have?
I don't think so. Thank you.
So I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit because I've brought my aquatic superintendent, Brandon Burns. He's going to talk to you about the things that we need as far as the aquatic side, because I'm going to admit he's much more knowledgeable on all of that stuff. But really quick, senior center patio covering. The senior center is looking to have an outside space to do a lot of her events. She does crafts out there, she does coffee and pastry, she'd like to do card games out there. She has a nice concrete patio, but we'd like to be able to cover it so that they're protected from the sun, you know, in kind of gloomy days and things like that. So that's what that $25,000 is. And then water park furniture, every couple of years we like to phase out the old and broken and bring in the new. Our water park memberships continue to increase, so we feel that that's a nice thing that we can do for the members that come into the pool. Brandon, do you want to talk about the concrete and then the fitness center stuff?
So next up, you'll see the concrete. There is a photo there. I don't know if you can see it very well, but we actually have been violated now by the health department twice. Our concrete is splitting, cracking. We have replaced some sections of the concrete, but when we add a new section, some of the surrounding ends up sinking, cracking, and causes a safety issue with it either being uneven, cracks, folks getting injured. So we put up there the opportunity to do sections, so we can look at doing the major sections. We have one area by the diving boards and over by our pump house that we've been specifically cited for. So we can look at doing it in sections, but I also think that Amy and Sarah are working on possibly getting in with engineering and getting it as a part of the road program. But it is something that right now, as we get cited by the health department, they're considered non-critical violations. So we get cited, they tell us we need to address it. But if we continue and it continues to be a citation, then it becomes critical, and we don't want to get to that point.
So are we getting, there's no kind of monetary for being cited? Is it, are you getting any kind of fines or anything?
We don't get fined for it, but if we become critical and continue, then our license becomes in jeopardy. If we're not meeting those standards, then they could revoke our
Is there
operating
a
license.
legal liability if you've been cited? If
Well, there's legal liability whether we're cited or not, but
Yeah.
it does become an issue when someone has come out and said there's a health and safety concern and has provided us with the information and we did not address it. So if somebody got injured, trips, falls, hurts themselves, then we do have liability for that. I'm not Vizana, but
Yeah.
I would say that most likely we would.
And what Brandon was mentioning that Amy and I are in discussions on with just doing the full project, just everything that needs done with the concrete, is her sidewalk program that she'll do next year. If we can increase the size of that sidewalk program, do the full concrete that we need out at the water park, we might be able to get better pricing because of how much we're gonna be going out to bid for. So that's something that, you know, we're talking with engineering about, because it certainly could be included if we're able to afford to do the whole thing all at once. And it's one of those things that if we can find the money for it, we might be able to get a better deal on the concrete that we buy and the labor to put it in.
Guys, excuse me 1 second. I just want to go back for 1 minute and ask Jennifer a question. We committed money last year for the ADA program for the park over there. But now we're talking about an EPA study to move a stream. Could this become a real boondoggle? I
No.
mean, we've only committed so much money, and here I'm all of a sudden looking at $2 million for roof and pool pack replacement, and now we're gonna move a stream.
So the roof and pull pack replacement is in the fitness center. That'll be a
Right.
different discussion on the next page.
I'm just looking at the overall picture here.
That we'll be looking at financing for. The actual piece of the ADA that we did this year is just the study. So we have not put any
Are we
money
gonna get
into
an
that.
answer this year on that?
Yeah, they're doing the study this year between Jennifer and Amy, are having that looked at, but there's nothing that's actually been committed to that project
Okay.
yet besides just
So
the
we
study.
can revisit that.
Yeah, that part that is gonna be covered by the grant, that helps us out because that saves us 50% cost.
That's the state grant we're talking
State
about?
Right.
Okay, because that was what I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, because I think
Because-
part of the state grant and the
Yeah.
820 is,
Yeah, because last year, if you guys remember, that was like the phase one, and we
Yeah.
were gonna do, you know, a somewhat expensive portion of that project.
right.
We dialed that back down, and they just went ahead with just a study to see what we could.
We don't know the cost of the study, or?
We know the cost of the study. I think it was $15,000.
Yeah, it was
ended
not
up being-
anywhere near what we asked for
Okay.
last year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like she said,
We
we
dropped
did
it way
dial
down.
it back
Mhm.
because we wanted to look at the project as a whole, because once we started going down that road, we found that it wasn't as simple as those pictures made it look.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a matter of redoing
Right.
that bridge and adding some concrete.
Sure.
We actually have to change the grade. But in order to do that, we have to see what the EPA wanted us to do on that stream.
Gotcha.
And that's what that grant is gonna help out with, is
And that grant is
getting the
spec-
actual work
specifically
done.
for that?
Yes.
The piece of it.
Okay,
Yeah, there's
gotcha.
3 parts to that grant, and the second piece speaks to that.
Slid in there, and then I can clear it all around the poles.
Yeah.
Terrific, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to do the big one, the full pack? And then I'll have him do the
Yeah,
other.
can you flip to the next slide, Chief? Thank you for being our,
Thanks,
our
Chief.
IT person.
They're all unusual, man.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, just real quick before Jen and Brandon take over explaining the fitness center requests, so that $2.3 million number there, 2.293, we are already in talks. We actually just met today with, you know, our financial advisor on how it is that we want to structure that purchase, how do we want to pay for it, and we're also looking at getting some contributions from outside of the city to help cover the cost of that roof and pull pack. So our goal is, number one, to not spend $2.3 million on that roof, to have other funding sources come in from outside the city to help cover it, as well as get a good financing package to be able to pay off whatever we need to borrow that would be covered by the fitness center fund. So we want to get that payment to a level that that fund can take care of it, so that we're not doing a transfer to be able to pay off that loan or whatever that debt financing that looks like.
Sarah, when does the state move their interest rates, you know, pursuant to the Fed raising interest rates? I don't know how state funding at a low rate is impacted by prime rate and federal funds rate. Are we okay for a while, or?
Yeah, so like I said, we just met with him today and the rates haven't moved too much just yet on our type of borrowing that we would need to do. So if we have ourselves together and we can get some agreements on the outside funding sources and look at that next year, we should be in an okay place to still get a decent rate.
Okay, good.
And once you have the rate, it doesn't move or anything like that, right? Are you locked into that?
Right,
Right,
once you get the
okay.
rate,
Once you
yeah,
make the
it
agreement,
depends
the
on the
rate
type
stays the
of
same.
borrowing, but we probably wouldn't be interested in any kind of variable rate debt, and I'm not even sure that we would be allowed to do that, to be
Right.
honest. I would have to look into Ohio Revised Code, but mostly the rate that you agree to is the rate that you agree to when you go through those
Perfect.
financing documents, whether it's a note or a bond. Okay, back to you, Jen.
Back to you.
So just really quick, the equipment lease, we're locked in for at least one more year. Like she mentioned, the pool pack and roof replacement. So that's a big number, and there's a reason why it has to be done. It's not something that we unfortunately can continue to kick down the road. So Brandon, I'm gonna have you tackle scoreboard, flow meters, and the pool pack. Again, we are looking at funding, we are looking at shared resources. So, but this is something that we definitely need to do, so.
Perfect, thank you.
And it's been on the 5-year capital plan for about 5 years. So we're getting to
remember
that
seeing
point
this.
where you guys probably remember
I
seeing
just
it.
remember hearing, you're gonna hear about this, like, we're gonna get to the point where we have no choice.
Correct, and we're there.
Unfortunately, I think over the years, our estimate has doubled from what we thought it would be 5-6 years ago. So, and the pool packs are what's going to keep the pool able to operate. So when you go in, obviously you have a hot pool area, but you don't have saturation, rain, essentially. The pool pack takes the air, puts it through the pool pack, extracts a lot of the moisture, takes out any chloramines that would make it hard to breathe, and to be able to be in that area. It keeps our equipment from rusting. Whenever we have issues, if you ever go to the pool, you will see water. Literally, it looks like your bathroom out of a shower. If it's not working, we get condensation. It gets hard to breathe. Swimmers tend to cough because there tends to be chloramines in there. And then there's also tied to the roof project. These are large entity structures. So it wouldn't make sense to try and replace these and then come back a year or two later and say, let's replace the roof. It's going to cause the project to be even more expensive. So getting it done at once takes care of both issues. And I will say, last year I was actually doing a swim meet and somebody waved me down and went upstairs into our balcony area where our bleachers are. They said, it's dripping from the roof. I said, oh. We actually had a large hole where we were getting water from outside. So the roof is deteriorating as well. We put Band-Aids on the pool packs. We would be putting in a lot more money to try to keep it going, and it just wouldn't make sense at this point.
Is our roof one of those commercial wool rubber roofs, or is this an old roof that's still shingles? I mean, what?
No, it's one flat rolled surface.
One big flat,
Yep,
okay.
yep. And it's just a flat roof.
What's the lifetime on one of those when you replace it,
The pool pack or the roof?
The roof?
The roof, I don't know the exact. You probably want to talk to Chris Campbell on that, but it's been the same roof since we opened. So what, 99? So we're looking at
Oh, yeah, okay.
23 years.
25,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is
20 to
kind of
25.
a normal for
Okay.
life for a roof. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say the pool pack's normal life expectancy is about 20 years, and we've exceeded that by about 4 or 5 years. So we've been patching it, putting in money, but again, it's just something that will eventually catastrophically fail. And do we want to continue to put large sums of money into something and see the price double in 4 to 5 years as it did this time?
Do you see any,
The finance guy today.
Oh.
And he told us that it was Fairview Park, right? That is doing the same exact thing that we need to do with ours, with their pool area as far as the pool packs. And he says, if I hear one more time about pool packs on the roof, he says, that's it just, after so many years, was theirs about the same age as ours, or did he say that?
Well, I think theirs is quite a bit younger,
Yes.
but they have some other
And they had a
issues that they're dealing
catastrophic
with
failure. I
with their
think they
building.
shut
So
down.
Yeah.
Ours
They know how to
has
live.
lived its life that it was supposed to live. Theirs, I think, has not lived the life it was supposed to live, and they have some other things they're working through.
Gotcha. Okay.
Next up is our scoreboard. So if you go into the pool, you've seen we have a large scoreboard. It was last replaced in 2012. Actually was installed on October 18th of 2012. The cost up there is $53,000. We're getting it from Colorado. Unfortunately, these are one of the entities that we use that we have to go with a specific company because of our timing equipment and the things that we use. That is a large number, but as we did in 2012, we solicited funds from the school to help purchase that scoreboard that we have now. We'd be looking at Twinsburg High School, as well as War High School now calls the fitness center their home pool. And then we do have a club team in there as well. So we'd be looking at getting funding from all of those entities. The scoreboard, our current one will be lasting over 10 years come October. So looking over it at a 10-year span, 53,000 seems like a large number, but it isn't too bad. And to be able to host swim meets, and we gain revenue from both of our all of our entities coming in and hosting swim meets, we would then lose that. So if we didn't have a scoreboard, folks aren't going to be coming in to rent our space to host their competition. So it's something that we need to do to keep our clientele, so to speak.
Do the scoreboards just kind of rust out and short out from all the moisture?
Yes.
Is that what
They
happens?
literally, the bulbs, the LEDs kind of rust and fall out. The equipment in the back rusts out.
Yeah.
We've been able to replace it over the years, but now our scoreboard is so old that Colorado does not supply it. We were trying to go on eBay and different places to get equipment that other facilities had or maybe they weren't using, but we've kind of run out. We've put our last couple of Band-Aids on it. If it goes in its current state, it's gone. So we want to make sure that we get ahead of it before it completely dies on us.
I have a question about the pool pack.
Yeah.
Have you seen any usage decline because the quality of the pool pack has gone down, or is it just been consistent?
Oh, the quality is consistent.
I mean, like the use it, like people coming in.
Yeah,
Have you heard
usage
of
of the
people
pool.
stop using it because they're having?
So we
struggling or at
probably
all?
would get to a point where we wouldn't be able to use it if we didn't have a pool
Right.
pack. We haven't had a situation where we've had a prolonged downtime.
Or noticed people leaving because of discomfort or anything like that?
Well, we have had issues when it's down. We get complaints and folks are upset. I get parent phone calls mostly from swim team members and things like that because it becomes difficult to breathe. Chloramines, if your everyday person is in there and we're having a slight issue, most folks won't notice. If you're swimming laps or you're actively engaging in some kind of activity, then you're definitely going to notice it. But if it were to fully go down, we just wouldn't be able to be open. Unfortunately, it's not like we could operate the pool without the pool backs.
I was trying to hopefully get to the point where you could say, well, we're losing.
Oh, well,
usage
we
because
if
of
we
it,
didn't have
yeah.
the pool packs, we would be shutting down. So we'd be
Yeah.
losing folks, rentals, and an opportunity for our residents.
So we
As of
lose
now.
it.
Yeah, but not as of yet. We haven't.
Right.
Quick question on the scoreboard.
Yep.
Based on your past experience, what percentage would you estimate, do you think you could raise, funds for?
So I brought it here. Let's see. So back in 2012, our total cost was $37,300. And the school's portion, they paid $12,000 of $37,000. So
That was just the high school, correct? And
just the high school. So now we're going to be looking at, again, I don't know that Aurora is going to put in as much as Twinsburg does, as they are an outside entity paying a premium to use the space. But we do expect them to put in some funds as well as the club
So do
team.
they pay monthly how do they pay to use our space?
So Aurora pays hourly for every hour that they use the facility. And unfortunately, as non-resident team, they practice from 8 to 10 at night. So once the facility closes to other residents, they come in and they swim from 8 to 10. And then they pay a per meet fee to host their competitions at our pool.
So there's no way that we can build any kind of funding into that?
For their rates that they're using to swim, we are increasing the rates for this year.
Right.
We did increase the rates for their swim meets as well, but we'd like to get an additional lump sum of funds to help pay for it.
Sure. Got it.
Same thing with the club team. They pay a premium to have their swim meets at our facility. Very lucrative for us to have those meets. So without a scoreboard, we would not be able to host them. Last up, oh no, we have two more. Flow meters. Unfortunately, the flow meters is nothing exciting. It is a meter to tell us how many gallons per minute we are moving the water through our filter system. So it is required by law. ODH does require that you be able to turn over your pool every 8 hours. So the flow meters provide that documentation or us to be able to see how many gallons per minute we're flowing through the filters to ensure that we are compliant. We have had some issues. We had issues with our sand filters that one of our laterals broke. And to take apart a filter, you have a sand filter, you have laterals that have small spaces in them. So when the water flows through the sand, any dirt or grime or whatnot gets stuck in the sand and then the water goes through the laterals. The laterals broke, and so sand was pushing through into the pool. So if you were ever at the pool for a period of time, you'd be like, why is there sand on the bottom? Not because we're a beach, but the sand was coming through the filter. Unfortunately, that sand then got into our flow meters as well and caused them to not work. We were able to kind of get our way through it for a little bit, but now we've also been cited by the health department and saying that we have no accurate way to measure what our gallons per minute is. Now we know that we don't have any issues, that our filters are working properly, and that everything that we know, the pool is clear, you can see the bottom of the pool. So we do know that our filter system and everything is working, but we do by law need to be able to show that we're getting so many gallons per minute through. This particular flow meter is different, so it's ultrasonic. It will go on the pipe, so instead of the old type of meter that would be susceptible to the sand, this should allow us to get kind of a new upgraded system, and we won't be worried about these type of issues in the future. The other ones are kind of obsolete and outdated.
That's good.
And then the last thing is a handicap lift chair. That is required by ADA, so we do need to have a lift chair. We are going with essentially the same chair that we had previously. It's not a fancy electronic chair. It literally is a chair that works off of water. So we hook it up to a hose, and it uses that hydraulic system to put folks in the water and out. The reason we do that is some of the electronic versions are A, more expensive, B, break easily and have expensive parts. Our goal is to get this chair, and it may not look like the fanciest lift chair that you've seen, but it gets people in and out of the water, and it costs us from having expensive repairs.
Sounds like a good compromise, yeah. Okay. Anybody got any other questions, gang?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, golf maintenance.
Thank you, Chief.
I think my hand's going to be a little bit easier. Than
Yeah.
In
It's
the
just
past years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, we gave him a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say the golf course looks great. I play it every Wednesday, so we appreciate you
so
guys
much.
putting the effort in there.
Thank you. We appreciate that. I'll pass it on to the staff. All right, good evening. Nice to see everybody again. Golf maintenance, what we are looking for as a request for 2023 are 2 mowers. These machines, one of them mows the tees on the golf course, and the other one mows the collars and approaches on the golf course. If anybody's not familiar with those areas, the tees is the plain surface where you hit the ball off, and the collar is directly right around the putting surface of the green, and the approach is right in front of the green. So what we would like to do is request to replace our 2008 machines. We have 2 of them. So we're looking at, they are 15 years old right now. And it is recommended by our mechanic. They have exceeded its useful life, and both are recommended for replacement. The 15-year-old mowers currently have some mechanical issues and are equipped with old technology. And right now, parts are starting to become discontinued or unavailable, which is affecting operations. And if there's any questions or comments on those 2 mowers.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as we go towards the future, especially with the golf course, Is battery-powered items gonna start, do you think, are you gonna experiment with them, we can look into them? You know, just because of the noise and the environmental impact, and it seems that battery technology's gotten so good. You know, but I don't know if it's something like a golf course, if that's a joke. You know?
Not at all, and that's a great question and remark. Right now, a lot of the turf industry and the equipment is going that direction because they have found going electric that they are stopping a lot less leak points on the machines. So playing the golf course, I mean, you don't want to have a hydraulic leak on a green, a tee, or a fairway. So right now, what's available and what we would be looking at on a similar basis to what, instead of a complete battery or electric operated machine, they have hybrids out right now.
Oh, they do?
Which are really nice, that we would be looking into, so better gas as well. Less leak points and problems, issues on the golf course. So it would be motor driven for the tractor portion of the mower, but then the cutting units would be operating from a generator from electric.
So is that what we're talking on
It
these
is,
two?
correct.
So we're going into modern technology.
Absolutely.
We're not, yeah. That's terrific.
That's the direction we would like to take the golf course.
That's good forward thinking.
Thank you.
Anybody? Other questions?
No?
Nope.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Excuse me.
Okay, engineering and infrastructure.
Good evening. I guess you're just going through the slides, pretty much.
Yeah, you want a packet?
I have your,
You got it? Okay.
so what we're looking first is we have on the capital and engineering vehicle. When we downsized a couple years ago, my staff downsized. The vehicles were rotated out as far as other vehicles. There's no vehicles left in the pool per my discussions with Fred. So when I hired somebody in December, I've given them my vehicle. So when I run around at lunch, I'm doing it in a personal vehicle. We're also looking at, you know, in the next coming year or so in our succession planning and our staff needs is another person. So I'd like to get that car so that we don't have to use personal vehicles running around associated with that. We probably purchase a car about every 5 years, and currently we have 3. So this would be the 4th in staff. So you're trying to stretch those cars as long as you can of those vehicles. So
And
that's
we
the first
have-
request.
Real quick, Amy,
yeah.
sorry. We'll have Fred at the next 2 meetings. So the next meeting is Safety Services, and the meeting after that is Public Works. And at the end of that Public Works meeting, we'll do a fleet recap of all the vehicles, and we'll go over, the things that he thinks he has a vehicle that will work for that department, what we need to buy new, and then what we can hold off on.
Well, I remember last year
Yep.
that, maintenance and all that, I mean, they had a bunch of vehicles they had to replace because they were rusty, but they had 40, 50,000 miles on them. And if these are just, putt-putt, vehicles, 40, 50,000 miles on a pickup truck is nothing.
Yeah, and he has some solutions for some of the ones that you'll
Okay.
hear about. So we'll have that whole fleet discussion
Whole thing,
just like
okay.
we did
Yeah,
last
no,
year.
all I'm looking at is I need a vehicle. So
I wanna give you a junker.
I defer to Fred, so.
Yep.
Land development, we typically have a tree program, and in the last couple of years, this year, in 2022, was a little bit less because we're no longer doing a lot of tree plantings with a lot of new developments coming in. So I think I've got a fall planting left on this year that is like 30-some trees. So we're just asking for $30,000. These are typically replacement trees that maybe have disease, that maybe have been damaged, that type of stuff. This year's program this fall, we'll get rid of some of the ash that are still on, I think, Waldo Way. I could be wrong on the name of the street. But it does, so it's a small amount, just basically looking at the replacement trees. We try, now that it's small enough, we do a bid in the spring and a bid in the fall based on the list as we develop it. If there's enough to warrant that. It could be 10 trees, it could be 30, it could be 50. Sidewalk program, typically last year I think we had 50,000 in this. Based on costs and prices of sidewalk to do about the same, we're looking at an increase in price. This is a list that we typically get from the service department that are determined to be cities' responsibility due to either utility manhole in the cover or something associated with the street tree that may have lifted sidewalks and caused some other issues with it. So that's what that program, this is different than what the service department does for leveling. They try and level the sidewalks first. And then when they can't, they give us a list that basically needs replacement. East Idlewood Bridge, this is the pedestrian bridge that goes from the parking lot at East Idlewood over to the playground that's in that area. And in 2019, roughly, we had done a study on that. We looked at service department as far as what they could do to maybe bring some repairs and upgrades, and there's so much deterioration. It's rusting basically away. It sits low if anybody drives through there whenever a flood occurs. It's basically sat at a too low of a criteria. So we did apply for NatureWorks grant. I have not heard back on that. We originally applied for more. I was requested to stay in for the funding. They only had 61,000. I said, sure, something's better than nothing. But we still don't know if we have that money, but that would be replacement of that bridge by elevating the abutments, making sure it's ADA transitional, going back to the parking lot and to the playground area.
Yeah, this has been a talk of the town.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see, but that left-hand picture, I don't know if you can see up in the color one, I can pass it around, but that water comes up above the bridge. So the solution that, you know, should this get approved and move forward, the goal would be to alleviate that
So when I
issue.
look at this, I mean, obviously I'm not qualified as an engineer or anything like that. I ride over this bridge. It's a pretty sturdy bridge.
It's a walking bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge.
Oh, is that the pedestrian one? Okay, so I must not be riding over that one. But I mean, looking at this, are we looking at a whole bridge replacement?
We are looking at the whole bridge. What it is, it's a continental bridge that was originally put out there 25 years ago plus. So we'd be looking at a prefab structure for the bridge, very similar to what we have. But like I said, we have to raise those abutments, so there's some structural work that has to be done on the abutments that exist already, and then approach work, grading work, and what have you. And majority of this price is, a fair amount is associated with that prefab structure. It needs a crane to set it, a crane to take the old one off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at with the pricing, based on what we did earlier this year to come up with that pricing. I don't know where pricing is going.
We talked a little
yeah.
bit about
Yeah,
that before.
yeah.
So
So-
they have the heads up.
I see it in my work every day, the pricing.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be, is the bridge gonna be increased in size? Like if you look at that one picture where you can see it is, you know, clearly on end to end, it's still clearly underwater, you know.
It's coming up.
Right, so,
But it will-
when you do the approach, you said you're gonna regrade that.
Yeah,
So
we're actually, the abutments will come up. How we redo that approach is going to be graded, and it's got to be ramped at a certain level to be ADA compliant. So we'll make that adjustment. It's coming back for the parking lot. The parking lot kind of goes down into it, so it works out in a shorter fashion to get that all accomplished. On the other side, we'll probably have to fill behind that abutment and create that ramp that basically would be through there. But no, we're not extending the width of it because.
So like the approach is potentially if it were to flood like that again, the approaches could potentially be washed away. But that's.
No, they're in the ground. So what we're doing is, the foundation of that is in the ground, the structure of the abutment. So it's got, we're attaching to we're building higher to raise that main support of the structure on the bridge out of the floodway.
But
Yeah.
if it does flood, there's going to be no damage.
You get flood everywhere, in terms
Right,
of whatever.
You're not going to get away from that. Like this is going to happen again. So that.
Yeah, it's going to be designed so it doesn't float away with the flood based on what we do, so.
Okay.
Chief, if you could move us to the last slide there. Thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts. I just want to take a moment real quick on this slide. You may remember from the past couple years, Amy's projects almost always hit more than one of those funds, those checkbooks that we always talk about. So just as a refresher, SCMR is that Streets Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund. We get some money from the state, so all those different funds have different revenues that come into them that Amy can use for specific things. And I also wanted to point out on this slide that Dorridge water line and reconstruction. You've seen that one before. You've approved that one before. The reason it's back on here is because we had to go rebid that project due to pricing issues. So you may have seen that in the paper or not, that we pushed that a year.
Yeah, and I don't know what the timeline for the final budget, but we're gonna go through those numbers in great detail before we
Right.
put it on the street for rebid again this year. So we're
Yep.
basing that on extremely inflated prices last year. I don't know how that ripple effect, if they're just gonna, keep going way up. So we still have to evaluate that, but that's that project.
Hopefully things
We'll-
even out.
Anything else yet? I didn't mean to interrupt there, sir.
No,
before I
no,
go.
sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to point a couple things out.
Yep. Road program, we always have a typical road program, which is a maintenance program for resurfacing. In this program, I don't have all the streets. I can give you the 3 that I know are in it. I can give you a lot of other ones I'm looking at. Probably going to make it, and then we're still evaluating, still on the east side of the city, a number of streets. But Enterprise and Edison and Iris Glen are probably our 3 worst. So they'll definitely make it into the plan. We're also looking at the Highland subdivision. We're looking at like Patton Court, Guild Court. There's a lot of courts or smaller roads that kind of got passed by because of lower traffic that basically are getting up into that Deerfield Court, Heron Cove, those types of things. We're looking at a little section of Bell Meadow, I think from Dayflower through. So we'll evaluate all these based on the road conditions, and then things that we're looking down that I don't even have some preliminary numbers on are things that would be, I think there's a section of Waldo Way that, is Andrew in need over in Sharon Brook. And as we work down our way down Chamberlain Road, there's some things over there like Ashcroft and other things that are on our highlight list. We usually make the program, we rate the roads, we run out of money, we draw the line. And then we publish the roads on our website for construction, so once we have a final plan. So, and again, we're looking at that based on lane miles, trying to get back up so that we're more on a 20-year resurfacing program. We kind of, in the last couple years, we cut back, we were on like a 40 some years. If you actually calculated all our lane miles, how long it would take to get back around. So it's just basically trying to keep the roads in a condition that is somewhat acceptable to the city, the way they're used to having roads maintained. Dorridge Waterline, we kind of talked about that already. Any questions on Dorridge Waterline? It's actually Waterline and has reconstruction associated with the whole road. It's in the acres. Road striping, last year we had to cut our striping just to long lane because of the increase in pricing for gas and for paint. So that has got a substantial increase in dollars from last year because we're also including back into it all the stop bars, crosswalks, and things that we didn't paint this year. So we did increase the prices for that, and that's our goal, to get everything painted on the ground. We do use a water-based paint because that's what's required by the EPA. That's why it doesn't last as long. They used to, years ago, use more of an oil-based paint when that was allowed. And the water-based, that's why we paint on a fairly regular basis. Between that and the glass beads you put down that the plows kind of plow off the road for reflectivity is the reason why we do that fairly often as a safety measure. Cannon Road is a federally functional roadway from downtown the Ravenna area up to Liberty Road. That is the only portion that is federally functional, classified, and we did get money, 80% grant, 20% match to resurface that. If you remember last year, we approved some storm work up there so that we didn't have an environmental impact and could move this through pretty quickly through ODOT, and the money comes through AMATS. Right away for Four Corners intersection. This has been under design. We're in a process, but basically we had done plan prep. We had gotten money. We were basically in the environmental performance standard portion this year. Next year we'll be doing the right-of-way plans, doing the appraisals, the review appraisals, and hopefully by the end of the year starting the purchase of right-of-way. We need both temporary and permanent right-of-way. This is for right turn lane from Ravenna onto Richmond, right turn lane from what's north, Broadview onto Shepherd, and the left turn lane off of Shepherd Road. So it's the intersections. It's in partnership with 4 communities. We're the lead. There's a certain amount of money that will come back in addition once we go into construction, which is in 2025, that will come back. So you'll see this continuously progressing through the capital every year. Emergency storm repairs, again, that's 50,000 is kind of a placeholder that we've been using the last few years. And it's been sufficient to this point. In past years, I've been here a long time, we may have used more than that, but that's kind of what we kind of put in the budget, hoping that we can stay within that. We don't have any emergency repairs. Good thing we don't do water line emergency repairs with the water break that's up there.
Yeah.
No, we do have to
Yeah.
do emergency repairs, but we have to replace that pavement after Cleveland Water completes the repairs and certifies those repairs to the service department. Ravenna Sanitary, we got Ohio Public Works funding for this. It's a loan, 0%. It's from State Route 91 to 82. That's the section. There's a wastewater has a pump station down there by Baldwin Park. Yeah, so it comes on up. So it's that section of the roadway. In the resurfacing program, I have money also to resurface that section of Ravenna. So that's where it said in Ravenna Road resurfacing. So Ohio Public Works, based on the way the applications are, sanitary sewer would be a standalone project. We're just looking at the road's condition after we do the standalone project. We're just going to combine the two. One will be funded associated with Ohio Public Works, and then part of it will be 100% city funded for the resurfacing.
And so, if you flip back real quick to that fourth page where I have the dollar amounts broken out by fund as opposed to department, my goal for next week will be to have an additional column on that page that says, okay, this fund is gonna be okay, we have reserves there that we can use, or here's how much we need to look at to reduce the request. So that's my goal for next week, and we have police and fire next week, and their requests shouldn't be too long, that we can have a good discussion about where do we need to look to find what we need to find to make the budget look good. Okay?
Who's gonna work the slideshow?
Anybody got any questions?
I'm good.
We good, Eric? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Amy.
Except for when you're up, chief.
They can rotate, the chiefs can rotate. Police and fire can take turns.
Okay.
Okay. We have miscellaneous.
Yeah, that's just if there's any questions from tonight's presentations that you guys come across, just like always, email me this week and I can have the answers for you on Tuesday to bring back to you for what you heard tonight.
I think always the toughest thing to wrap our heads around is when we talk about infrastructure. Everything else we can kind of relate to, but infrastructure, is kind of, and it's such a huge dollar amount all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a leap of faith, I guess, that we have good people and she does a great job. And
She does. And Amy is very good about finding sources of funding to
That's what I
offset
was gonna
those.
say, that she usually always has some sort of funding that she's bringing to the table
Yeah.
whenever she's doing it.
And even most of the loans that she gets are 0% interest, so it's not as though we have a financing charge on top of it. It's just we can use somebody else's money for a while to pay off the cost of the
so
project.
this is her own initiative. When she wants something done, she finds some good funding for it.
Well, when she finds the things that need to be done,
Yeah.
she goes out and her list goes out 25 years. She's
How many years
everything is
experience does she
scheduled.
have, sir?
So she's been with the city, I think, 20 plus.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
and
why
then-
she's so
and-
familiar with all these programs and
And
what she's talking about.
I think she was somewhere before she came to the city, maybe. Yeah. I can ask her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
But
gotta be
yeah,
honest
she's-
with you, I'm not even sure what questions to ask her, to be honest, I mean,
Well, if you think of them, you just let me know.
yeah, yeah. Okay, do we have anything else? How do we manage to do this in exactly 1 hour?
We got
The mayor pushed us to get it.
We
It's
got-
amazing.
we have very talented department heads.
The mayor was holding us up.
Just for you two guys, I just wish sometime, and I said this to Sam last year, all the department heads in this city and all the people that we've dealt with the last couple of years are so knowledgeable and so conscientious. You just wish sometimes that the public that gripes about, this, that, and the other thing realizes what a fabulous job everybody does, how hard they work to do it, and what a beautiful city we have. I mean, that's the frustrating part, isn't it, about,
They have no idea what these people do on a day-to-day
No.
basis here and how they work for them, because they work hard, every one of them.
yes.
And it's incredible.
You know, I tip my hat to all you guys. I mean, it's a great job by a great city, you know? You can do a
They
good job.
appreciate
Maybe we
that.
could just hang out next time without asking for so much money. you know?
Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.